Why don't you ask for help? Why don't you ask for help? That was one of the questions I was asked back in 2017 by one of my really good friends as I was sitting across from him and his wife, sharing my story of what I've gone through with my ex-wife at the time, the challenge of pulling the plug on a relationship that had been for 8 years, where I had moved from Europe to Canada to be with a woman that I thought was going to be my forever woman, so to speak. As I was sitting there pondering over this question, why don't you ask for help? I was struck by this feeling of embarrassment, this feeling of I'm not strong enough to even consider asking for help from what I had just left. You see, I was at a place where I was so lost of who I was as a man. I had lost my identity. I had left a marriage. Who was I today? Who was I now? Which version of myself would emerge from this? I was sitting across from my friends as they looked at me, and I started tearing up because I simply could not answer that question in a way that felt honest, other than I could tell them that I was just too embarrassed to ask for help. It was hard for me to even share the fact that I had decided to divorce my wife. It was hard enough for me to pack all of my life, close my business, and move back to Europe, and having to admit that all of a sudden I had no business, I had no relationship, I was technically homeless, I had nowhere to go, I had no purpose in life. I felt absolutely and utterly alone. I felt like nothing really mattered in life. The only thing that I really felt as I was sitting and talking to my friends was just this immense sadness, this pain, this regret, sorrow. I felt regret because I have always been a strong person. I've always been very driven. I've always been very focused on personal development, and I poured everything I could into my marriage. I poured everything in to solving the problems that we had. And yet here, as my friends were asking me this question, why don't you just ask for help? I was struck with this feeling of inadequacy, this feeling that, fuck, I had not fought hard enough. I had quit. I had given up. And that is a hard place to sit in. It's a hard place to admit that no matter how much time, no matter how much energy that you put into something, you just still could not solve the issue. You couldn't save. In my case, I could not save the marriage. I couldn't save our relationship because there was just a gap that had over the years grown so large that there was no common ground anymore. We were best friends and we lived as best friends, but there was no passion, there was no connection, there was no intimacy. And I was embarrassed to admit all that. I had been hiding most of the past 4 years and what has transpired in my marriage from even my close family. A lot of them didn't even know how I was suffering, how alone I felt, because I had nobody that I could really share all of this pain with. Because I felt that if I did share this, that people would judge me and they would see me as somebody who was weak, who didn't have his life on track, who didn't know who he was. And like I said, I've always been a strong person, and the people that know me always look at me as, you know, he has his life figured out, he has everything figured out, things are going well. And yet I was in a marriage where on the outside everything looked perfect. We had everything. And yet on the inside, everything was broken and falling apart. And so I could not answer this question of why I didn't ask for help. And it took me a long time to get to a place in myself where I could actually reach out and ask somebody, will you help me? Because I simply cannot handle this pain anymore. I do not know who I am. I do not know where I'm going. I feel I have lost my sense of identity. I feel like I've lost my purpose. I no longer know what I'm passionate about. I had completely given up the hope that one day, a woman other than my wife at the time would actually be able to love me, because I was so convinced that what had transpired in my marriage was because I was at fault. It was my fault somehow, and I was, somehow unlovable. And that's why she had disconnected from me. That's why she every time I would kiss her or try to kiss her, she would push me away. That's why when she told me the first time, I love you, but I don't love you that way, my heart just sunk. And I didn't fully understand the consequence of that statement itself. I brushed it off. I was like, okay, well, that's something she says because she's upset or hurt. But the reality was that she did love me. She just did not love me the way that she used to in our marriage. And that was my fault, because that was not me showing up every day in the marriage as the best version, most attractive version as myself. And I could take that on me today. But at the time, I didn't understand that. And it took me a long time to get to a point where here I can sit across from you and share the pain that I felt when my friends asked me that question, why don't you just ask for help? And I don't know if it's a guy thing. I don't know if it's just because we have pride. But I really felt that I could do this on my own. It's almost like I felt that that was my punishment from leaving. I had to deal with it on my own. Like if I asked for help, that would kind of be like a freebie out of all of this pain and this distress that I had caused both of us from leaving. And so for the first year after this whole thing, from 2017 and 2018, I did not ask for help. The only help that I had was my journal. The only help that I had was going for walks and starting to get back into shape. Meditation helped me tremendously. But it also opened up a door that led to a massive amount of anxiety that then propelled throughout the next 3 years after 2017. So that's a completely different thing that I struggle with because of my choice. And yet, even though that I was standing in this position of having these feelings, I still didn't ask. I still didn't ask for help. Until 2018, and I came back to Toronto, and I was just in a place where I just couldn't do it anymore. I just could not. And I'm sharing this because I understand the pain of walking alone. I understand the daily battle that you're faced with after you or your wife has made the decision to quit the marriage. I understand the pain of losing yourself so deeply and profoundly that you simply just don't even know if you can go on. And had I known the benefits of actually asking for help sooner than later, that would have saved me a lot of time, it would have saved me a lot of money, and it would have saved me a lot of heartache. Because the recovering process is something that you can start right away. It is daily action, it's daily work. However, it will save you a lot of pain. I didn't know that at the time. And so I had to learn it the hard way. I had to learn for 4 years to figure out myself and to figure out how do I move forward so that I can get out of pain. Like that was literally the biggest thing for me was just, how can I get out of emotional pain? How can I wake up in the morning and just feel peace and not feel like the whole world is just imploding on me? And so for 4 years, I have spent learning, studying, researching, practicing, putting into practice what I have gone through so that I can guide you and others like you through a similar process. You don't have to do this alone. You can choose to, but think about this for a moment. What is the cost of doing it alone? What is the price that you will pay, or your children would pay, if their father continues to walk down this path alone? Men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide after divorce. Did you know that? We have a massive increase in our ability or choice to take our own life after a relationship ends. That is sad. It is sad that we get to a point where we just cannot keep going. It's sad for our children that need a father, that need a leader. But I understand, because I was at that exact same place in 2017. And it was only by the grace of God, and I'm really saying is as the grace of God, that I am sitting here today, because I was at such a low point that I was ready and I was willing, and I had decided how I was going to kill myself. And that's a lot coming from somebody who has never had suicidal tendencies in his life, ever. Have I been sad? Yes. Have I had moments of depression? Yes. But nothing where I got to the point where I had just given up. So I do understand why we are proportionate higher in the statistic than women. And one of the reasons is because women are better at getting support. They're better at the exact thing that I sucked at, asking for help. So, today I have an offer for you. Will you ask for help? Will you allow me to help you? If you do, I would love to help you. And I would love to guide you down the same process that took me out of this pain of turmoil and lack of confidence, this daily stress, this anxiety. And if that's something that you're open to, then I invite you to go to this website. I'm going to link below. Click the link, fill in your information, sign up, and let's get you on a different path. Your life can be so different a year from now. I am 4 years, this will be the 5th year after my divorce. And I am happier, healthier. I have a baby boy. I'm in a new, amazing relationship. All of that could not have happened had I not gone through what I am teaching you. Impossible. I would not have been here today. I know that for a fact. So I am inviting you to join Legacy Builders. I am inviting you to take your own future and change it for the better, to actually move into a direction that is more productive than where you might be right now. However, it comes with a price. You have to decide to ask for help. And you start by putting in your information on the website. That's all I got for you today. Love and light your way.